I'm actually dealing with the two different points under this particular theme, recent trends in socio-economic history of India. In the first session, I would like to look at relooking into the history to understand the socio-cultural changes in India. Second session, I would like to discuss with the particular topic, cultural history and social changes, impact on economic issues in Karnataka. So, though I have divided the points into two different sessions, most probably sometimes I may mix up both the topics together for a better understanding, and there will be continuity also. You are all professors in the Department of History. So you are teaching history. You are doing research in history. You are writing papers in history, maybe small papers, maybe 5 pages, 8 pages paper. Sometimes you may write big books, maybe 200 pages, 300 pages. Or you will engage in your class. And while teaching your students, you may teach for 45 minutes to 1 hour. Whatever the work you are doing in these three issues. One is doing research for your PhD or for others' PhD of your students, or writing a book, or teaching in a classroom. In all the time, what is important is you must remember that you are a social thinker. See, we are telling that Auguste Comte or Mahatma Gandhi or big names in the education field, they are thinkers like that. No, when you are actually doing imparting knowledge to others, at that particular stage, your thinking is also actually transforming to the next one. Therefore, you are having the major responsibility of giving the perfect history knowledge to the students. Why we have to teach history? That's a good question, answered in many ways. And you all know, to create a better future and to understand the present, we need to understand the history. It's okay. But how to understand the history? Where to start? What to understand? How to look into it? This is exactly where I would like to give some sort of illustrations to you to make the things understanding in a better way. We had a past. We are having present days. We will be living in the future, in future. See, we are taking the past memories to the present day and we will move to the next day. See, while understanding our past, we understand it from our viewpoint, where we are standing. There actually we will look, we will understand that particular item. It is very necessary to re-look into the history in a different context, because whenever you are looking at the history, you can get or you can decipher different types of meanings from it. See, in the beginning itself, I will play one particular video to you, which may be for 1 minute. You just listen to it. Then let me discuss something more from it. The reason for playing this, I think you can understand in a different way. It is our own past. It's our own childhood. But at present day, we are observing so many changes in our life. When we are young kids, when we are going to our primary school or high school, we could have this situation, and the present situation is actually changing. The present kids may not have this type of lifestyle in urban area. See, history also. There are many things happened in our past, particularly in India. And when we are reading it, we can see at it for different reasons. One question I would like to put it in the beginning itself. That's about our independence in India. We got independence on August 15th of 1947. If I put a question, why India got independence on that particular day, what will be the answer from your side? You may give different types of answers. One answer may be the efforts of Mahatma Gandhi. Another effort may be the efforts of so many freedom fighters actually who worked, or you can say it is the totality of the Indian mindset which actually wanted to come out of that British locks. So India got independence, etc., etc. Now here actually your means historians or social scientists mindset should start working. See, India got independence because of so many factors happened in the past. I will tell you the very important point is in 1498. What happened in 1498? I think you can remember.
Vasco da Gama.
Vasco da Gama entered into India at Calicut, was greeted by Zamorin King, and Zamorin King, so many discussions happened. Then Albuquerque actually came to India and became the first governor of Goa, then Viceroy, Portuguese Viceroy. In 1600, Dutch East India Company is established. In 1602, British East India Company is established. So, the gate is opened on that particular day when Vasco da Gama entered into India. That is 1498. So, why India got freedom in 1947? It is due to the entry of Vasco da Gama. See, we are actually putting it in that way because of what has happened so many years back, some 400, 500 years back. Its impact is actually continued for so many centuries, and ultimately a situation has come. And so many changes are actually happened. See, this actually gives different types of dimensions to our socio, cultural, economical, and political aspects in India. Therefore, if we want to understand the socio-economic changes in India, we have to understand these political changes, what has happened in the past decades or past centuries. At the same time, we have to understand the cultural aspects also, how it's actually going to be changed and how it has been changing actually. That part also we have to see. Socio-economic history of India has undergone profound changes shaped by colonial rule, post-independence economic policies, and globalization. The last few decades have witnessed new approaches in studying India's socio-economic evolution driven by interdisciplinary methods, regional perspectives, and the role of marginalized communities. So, here, three important points are to be considered. I will share my PowerPoint presentation also so that you can catch the points little easily. I hope I'll take 1 minute. See, when we are understanding the changes in total scenario, we have to understand three things. One is, before Vasco da Gama's arrival in India, there was actually the kingly system. As there was kingly system, the education, the economics, the agriculture, and the general lifestyle. It had a particular type of form actually. Because of the influence of colonialism, there are changes. The education system is changed. The trade system also changes. And even the administrative system also changed. Which is further, actually, it affected the cultural situation, cultural things in India also. So what type of changes happened? Let us see those things. Early nationalist historians like Dadabhai Nauroji and R.C. Dutt, they viewed British colonial rule as the primary cause of India's economic backwardness, emphasizing the drain of wealth, deindustrialization, and the exploitation of India's natural resources. This is one point to be discussed actually. How was India? India was under the control of so many kings. And India had a sort of self-sophistication at the regional level. Every king had his own administrative system, he had his own method of collecting taxes and giving the benefits to the citizen in his own way. But when Britishers took over, what has happened? The basic change is the tax started collecting by Britishers and the benefits also. But here, the wealth movement from India to foreign that has started. So many of the historians actually look at British period only in this way. But recent thinkers, particularly Tirthankar Rai and a few others, they suggest a few other things also. Yes, it is true that the Britishers actually spoiled the wealth of this. They took away our wealth. But at the same time, they opened the gate for many of the developments. One such development is the introduction of trains, railway system. Another one is post office system. Another one is new education system. It is true. Education systems are actually changed. Whether it's good or bad, that we have to analyze in a different way. When I was in PG, I went to another college to attend a debate competition. The topic was Indian education system, the two modern Indian education system. I gave a speech actually. It was just for 5 minutes. I said only one important point that see previously the Indian education system was actually restricted to few communities. Very few people were able to get the education. Kings would get the education for their children in a different way to become kings, whereas a blacksmith gets education through apprenticeship in his house or in his kulume. So what happens? They used to get some sort of education, but now in India, common education system is there. So a king's son and a blacksmith's son both can sit and study together. So like that, I gave the speech and I thought that I may get the first prize. There were very few competitors, and at last the president announced one thing. If anybody else wants to speak, you also can come and speak like that. There was one boy named Subramanya who actually accompanied me at that time. He was not a competitor, but he came along with me to give the company. But at that time, he got an inspiration and he stood up. Sir, I want to speak. And he was given the opportunity. He started speaking. What he said, he went there. He said, only one or two sentences, not more. My previous speaker told that today a king's son and the blacksmith's son, both can enter into the same college and get the same education, and they are having equal opportunity, something like that. He said one more sentence. Earlier, a king's son used to get all the knowledge what is required to become a king, and this blacksmith's son used to get all the knowledge what a blacksmith actually needs. But today what happens, both will study in a single college. While coming out, he will neither be a perfect king nor be a perfect blacksmith, because both techniques he will not learn, the skills he will not learn. And what happened, ultimately everybody clapped, and because it was reflecting the present education system, the lacuna in the present education system, and there actually he got the prize automatically. See, what I would like to tell you with this is, it is not that the present education system or present situation is bad. Many times we will tell the previous days were good, but there is no proper assessment why previous day is good, why today is good, etc. It's actually the comforts ultimately works. Previously, the economic system in India, as well in any other country, it was the barter system, where actually barter system converted into coin system, rupee system. We have to understand what exactly that system is. See, coin earlier, it was actually copper coins or gold coins or something, which is a metal, which is a rare metal, which is not actually having any value on its own. But when we people started giving importance to that particular item, the item actually gets the value. When a third person enters, then the value, when it is decided by two people, if the third person also accepts the same value, then this value is going to be fixed. This is how exactly the concept of money is established slowly. Even now, if Reserve Bank actually prints a 100 rupees note, means even I am considering it as 100 rupees, and when I give it to you, you also will consider it as 100 rupees. The value actually remains the same. If somebody else is not accepting that value, then the value actually changes. Even in foreign exchange also, the same thing happens. Actually, in King's period, there were different types of systems. Particularly, the barter system was the major system which actually working together. But nowadays, what happens in India, because of this British colonial entry, the trade system is changed. Before that, in Kadambas, in Hoysalas, and even in earlier positions, the dynasties actually, they supported these economic trading, these cultural systems, these education, everything is actually patronized by kings. But after this British entry, the education system actually changed, and in independent India, the situation is actually, it was much different. Particularly when we relook into this particular item, Tirthankar Rai suggests a more nuanced interpretation, arguing that while British colonial policies had harmful effects, especially on traditional industries like textiles, they also led to infrastructural development, such as railways and ports. By reevaluating data on agricultural production, foreign trade, and industry, historians now examine regional variations in the colonial economy. For instance, some regions like Western India experienced relatively prosperity due to access to new markets, while others like Bengal suffered severely. These are some of the observations actually what has happened during that particular time. Another important change which has happened in the previous centuries is the caste and economic development. See, earlier economic historians often ignored the role of caste, treating India's economic development as a generalized process affecting all communities equally. Similarly, the marginalized people, particularly the women role. See, when Farida Akhtar from Bangla, she made some sort of observations particularly, and she wrote one book, Women and Trees. Seeds are their very source of life, and women are the ones who manage that source. That's actually the word by Farida Akhtar. She actually meets one old lady. She asks her whether your son is taking care of you at your old age. You are having any guarantee regarding this? She says, no. I'm not having that much of guarantee, but I am having the guarantee about the tree which actually stands in front of my house, because at least for my funeral, it provides some sort of woods. She's telling. See, in Women and Trees, Farida Akhtar actually makes this comment. That means the generations when changes, they're actually looking into the previous generation, looking into the knowledge of previous generation, that actually keeps on changing. So anyway, colonialism's impact on the Indian economy has been widely debated topic in Indian historiography. The traditional nationalist view blamed British colonialism for India's economic backwardness, focusing on the drain of wealth, deindustrialization, and the stagnation of agriculture. However, recent studies have re-examined and trying to analyze the structural transformation in India's economics during the colonial period. So this particular point is also. Then after 1947 and independent India, the focus was on industrialization. So this is actually another important point where we can look into it. Under the able administration of Jawaharlal Nehru, the independent India actually moved towards modernization. But this question of modernity itself is under question actually. Whether constructing dams, it is taking the people to the advanced level, or again it's actually producing a sort of problem to them. Significant increase in food production, especially wheat and rice, is actually possible because of the establishment of these dams. This is Bakra and Nangal. Two dams are actually constructed at that time. Uneven distribution of benefits. Punjab and Haryana flourished, but poorer regions did not get that much of opportunity. So, being historians, if you want to analyze the economic development in India, in general, we can say this modernization, it helped. But when you observe the disparity between the groups, between the regional areas, that's actually continued. And a disparity is actually continued even in castes. Because when common education is coming, common education in British period, again it helped only the upper caste people. It has not reached to the downtrodden communities. Only with the efforts of Savitribai Phule and a few more people, it actually reached them. So such issues are to be relooked in the present scenario. The post-1991 liberalization reforms marked a shift toward market-driven growth, which has led to a booming economy in sections like information technology and services. This has led to new economic challenges, social challenges, which include urban-rural divides and environmental degradation also started. So, after the independence, we may make three different stages. One is from 1947 to 1991. Another one is 1991 to the present decade. Because in 1991, when liberalization started, the entry of IT companies into India, that also started establishing. And later, Bangalore actually got the opportunity to become one of the hub of these IT companies. So much of economic changes happened in India. But again, the poor people, they remained poor, and the rich is coming to the more rich positions. But the changes happened in between the middle class people. So these observations we can have during this particular period. Post-independence industrialization actually leads to economic context, that is land reformations, urban migration, green revolution, rise of industrial sectors in Bangalore. These things actually happened during this period. Then comes caste and economic development. See, in the kingly states, the castes actually restricted to do some particular type of works. A priest remains as priest and his family remains as priest. A cobbler remains as cobbler. So like that, the smiths remains as smiths. So, but this work division is also was in different way. But during that time, even you cannot think of a priest's son working with a cobbler. But in the present situation, if a priest's son gets an MBA degree and if he gets an appointment in Bata Shoe Company, so he is ready to take it as a marketing manager or a designer, etc. And he will do similar type of works there. See, here cultural changes are there, social changes are there, economic changes are there, social mobility is there. The opportunities are wide open now. But how far these opportunities are utilized by the people in the proper way, that question always remains there. So earlier, during the king's time, all the land was actually related to king. Jamindars used to be there. They used to have the holdings upon that. And people who works in that, they have to pay the tax, and it will be collected by some shanbogs or kulkarnis, and it will be deposited with king, etc. One system was like that. But during the colonial period, the system is slowly changed. And during 1971, when Land Reformation Act comes, Uluvone Holodadiya. So through that, what happens? The ownership is given to different people. But because of lack of education, because of lack of powers from the communities, so many families, actually many communities, particularly many castes, retain their position as landless even today. But these are actually the certain changes happened over the centuries. So when you are looking into socio-economic changes happened in India, then you have to make it like this. One is the administrative system is changed. There were kings. Today we are getting the MPs, MLAs, or even village panchayat members, etc. The administrative structure is changed. Earlier, it was by birth the right used to come. Now, the right is actually changed, and it is through election they are getting the power. So, a particular change has happened in this particular time period. So, this is one item in the political scenario. In the education scenario, again, the education was restricted to a particular community, and the type of education given to each community is also different, and their knowledge is actually through apprenticeship rather than giving proper education. Overall education was not actually possible there. But nowadays, it is not like that. The opportunity is open, and the policy of reservation. Policy of reservation, directly we are telling that it is for upliftment of the community, etc., etc. But actually, the requirement is actually there only two particular points. One is the communities wanted education. That's why this reservation is actually demanded. Second one is the opportunities to earn, that is employment opportunity. For this purpose, the reservation is actually asked. So these are the two important points. Here actually the mindset is changed. See, earlier, before 15th century, the mindset was fixed that a few people should do a particular type of work. Others cannot take up that. See, this is actually bounded by religious feelings, then cultural constraints, and social restrictions, etc. Because of these things, the things are actually placed this way. But through the education, through the social changes, through the understanding of the human evolution, so everybody is trying to get the equal opportunity, and the changes are actually happening. So when we are re-looking into the history, we have to identify certain phases where actually such changes are actually happened. So this is one particular part of. Then another important change which has happened in Indian society is the role of the women. Never in the previous days, the labor of women was not actually waged properly. Even if they go for coolie, then there was disparity. If a male works for 8 hours and female works for 8 hours in the same arecanut garden or in paddy field, the wages given to them used to be different. But over the time, in the present scenario, particularly in the IT companies or in the modern appointment system, you cannot, or you are not supposed to discriminate like that. The value of their work is actually identified. The knowledge of women is actually never focused in the earlier stages. We used to tell about kitchen chemistry always. See, some of the knowledges we are not at all considering it as a knowledge. For example, you are taking the milk from the cow. When the milk is actually sucked by the cow, it will be kept for half day. If you keep it for 1 day, it spoils. If you boil it, it can extend it to 1.5 day or 2 days. If you add some sort of butter to it, so then it becomes buttermilk and you can use it for 2-3 days. If you churn it, if you get the butter out of it, then the butter, if you keep on replacing the water and if you keep the butter in it, you can extend it up to 1 week. And further, if you make it ghee from that, it can store it for 1 month or even more time. See, this is actually a simple knowledge which is available in every woman in the village. But this type of knowledge, this may be one small example. There are hundreds of such examples actually, particularly in the previous years, before these modern systems arises. The preservers, conservers are actually the women. The seeds used to be conserved in the paddy field. If some seeds are to be sown in the next year, for that purpose, the best selected seeds used to be protected by, preserved by, conserved by the women. But such systems are actually slowly removed because now modern shops are available, hybrid seeds are available, and at the time of sowing, they are actually using it. Now we are speaking about organic manure or different types of chemicals which we are going to use for these things. But earlier days, it was actually shift cultivation. The shift cultivation, it is shifted to paddy cultivation. When it is becoming paddy cultivation overall, the lands are actually divided and land ownership is given to different people. And when land ownership is given to different people, automatically the structure of the villages actually slowly changed. But because of the entry of the Britishers, what happened, the commercial crops are introduced, particularly in Markera of Karnataka, Madikeri, Kurg, Kodagu district. There actually the coffee system is established. Coffee plants are established. See how the change actually interrupted. So when commercial crops comes, even the agriculturists, they started considering it as a sort of small business. So they also thinking of getting or making more and more profits. So this commercial crop system was not there actually earlier. In the earlier stage, actually I can quote one example from one of the oral epic actually. In Junjappa's epic, there is one situation. Junjappa is a pastoral deity, he is the deity for Kadugollas in Karnataka. He is a cow herder. When he drives the cows to the different places, particularly during the summer period, they are semi-nomadic. Half the year they will stay in one particular hut, but in the summer period they will drive their cattle flock to different places, particularly towards the Malnad region, south. You see, this story might be related to 16th, 17th century. When this Junjappa actually drives the cattle, in the previous year, he drove through Chitradurga, then Channagiri, Shimoga, like that in the Malnad region, he drove the items. In the next year, when he drives the cattle in the same place near Cheluru in Tumkur district, there actually in Chiknaiknahalli near that, there was fencing. There was fencing and he got astonished why the road is actually blocked for my cattle. He removed the fence and he allowed the uh, cows to graze the grass there. Some soldiers came actually. They told that this area is belong to the Jamindar Chelur Rangana, a local chieftain, and you have to pay tax only to him. Hulubani, you have to pay. Otherwise, you will not be allowed to drive your cows here through this. So this Junjappa got angry. He started a fight with that particular chieftain. Then a dialogue has started between them. That Chelur Rangana, the local chieftain, he came there and he questioned why you are actually driving your cattle here without paying tax. Then he asked why I should pay tax. Because the tax system was not there. But the first time he was hearing that. He explained this land is mine. The grass grown here is belong to me. So you have to pay the tax. Immediately this Junjappa asked, see, this land is actually belong to Bhumata, Mother Earth. The river is actually bringing the water here. When floods are coming, the fertile soil is actually spreading on this particular place. And on that, the wind god that actually brought the seeds from different places and that spread. And this grass grown on its own. The sun god has given the light in the proper way. So this is healthy grass grown here. And I am allowing my cattle to graze it. Who are you to put the fence around it and how it actually belongs to you? See, this is exactly the change in our socio-economic situation. See, what Kittur Chennamma asked to British Queen Victoria or Thackeray, the same item actually. We, the people of this particular land, we are getting the crop in our land and we are making the trade with our own people. We are exchanging in a barter way. And who you are, the foreigner, the British, and why you are actually asking kappa? Why we should give tax to you? Nimageke kodabeku kappa. This question, what actually she asks, Kittur Chennamma, because of the socio-economic changes, such a new system is actually entered, and this kingly system, the new system, it's very difficult to digest by the then citizen. So such changes later actually takes drastical changes. We are telling in education field also, Macaulay actually granted 1 lakh rupees for the whole of India's education system. Now you just think what would be the grant given by central government for UGC or MHRD, because that also looks into the education. See, but it may be a small introduction, but there actually a new system of education is introduced. See, we are telling at the same time that the British introduced English to prepare clerks. Of course, up to learning the language, it is their desire. After learning the language, it is our desire how best we can make use of this. So this computer knowledge also. Now, if somebody is not knowing the computer operation, how to set a file, how to save a file, how to copy a file, or how to do it in Excel sheet, etc., etc. Sometimes we feel that we are illiterates in front of our younger generation. It is true, because actually the knowledge we are getting, particularly the present generation is getting, it is from different angles. So this is one particular major change. This modernization and globalization that has given a huge opportunity in this particular way. So the women's role, again, if I come back to this, women's labor contributions historically undervalued. Re-examination reveals their important role in textiles, agriculture, and informal sectors. One effect happened from British period is the effect to the regional artisans lifestyle and also regional textile industries. Because ready-made items, garments, etc., they started coming from that particular place. Our own cotton is actually taken away and it's actually in the finished form, it actually came again and we are forced to purchase those items. So these are some of the things actually which changed the economic system in India in a big way. But for this, we have to look into small things. Particularly, the political scenario is changed due to the law of doctrine. Lord Wellesley, Lord Cornwallis, these people actually, when they introduced new conditions to Indian rulers, the rulers were forced to accept these particular items. See, Rani Abbakka, she becomes very important because in the very beginning itself, she understood that these entries of these Portuguese people, it may create problem to India. And we can see the impact at the later stage. But now we are inviting many foreign companies, we are inviting many foreign universities, many foreign trade sections to enter into India because now the understanding has changed. The economic system has changed. The ruling method is changed. So the economics also changed. So 1991 reforms led to GDP growth and created new middle class. However, inequalities increased with rural areas being left behind. IT hubs like Bangalore thrived, but rural Bihar and UP saw limited benefits. There also this disparity is continued actually. See, India, with all these changes, the caste system retained. With all these changes, the poor and rich variation retained. And three communities, urban communities, tribal communities, and rural communities, they retained their positions in the same way. There is no change in their positions. There is a big gap between urban and rural students. Even when they entered into the interviews, we can see with our own students, a very few people, some percentage, they may actually cross these limits and they may stand up to the level at par with others. And this speaking of English, learning of English, that itself becomes a particular point for discrimination. See, particularly from North Karnataka, if many students actually reaches Bangalore and if they try for different types of jobs, or from the rural background, if they want to do something, then their mother tongue is not actually honored properly. Their points are not explained in the proper way. Their problems are not actually focused in the proper way. Yes. Actually, we used to tell in the classrooms, if somebody is actually studying in Kannada medium and if somebody is studying in English medium, what is the advantage and disadvantage? So particularly the Kannada teachers will tell this particular point. If you study from English medium, you will become medical representative because you can explain the product of a tablet in a better way and you can convince the doctor. But if you study in Kannada medium, you can become a doctor because you can understand the things in a much better way like that. Of course, these are actually slogan type of things. A person who studies in English medium or in Kannada medium, if he considers it only as a language, and if he is actually having thirst for getting the knowledge, then certainly the person can improve. So opportunities are wide open. Because of this modern education system, everybody got the opportunity. But as far as the facility system is considered, see what is this development? What is this facility? I am from Tirthahalli. Now I am sitting in America, but I am from Tirthahalli, a remote village actually on the Western Ghats. If somebody asks me, what is the distance from Tirthahalli to your house or your village? It is 11 kilometers in the Western forest. Okay. But some 30 years back, I used to tell it is 1.5 hours. And if somebody asks now, what is the distance between your village and Tirthahalli? I may tell it is 10 minutes. What is this actually? See, there is a slight change. The distance 11 kilometers remains same. It is not actually coming near. The village has not moved towards Tirthahalli town. It is there. Both are in the same position. But the roads, the transportation system, the way of walking. Because I was supposed to walk 3 kilometers and then I should get a bus and then I should travel another 6 kilometers on the bus, etc., etc. That was the situation earlier. So if I leave my house, I can reach the town, which may be 11 kilometers away, only after 1.5 hours. But nowadays, what happens? A car will be there, or a bike will be there, or auto is available. So within 10 minutes, we can cross that distance. So this is actually the change. This change tells so many other changes also. This entry into urban situation that has changed many of our belief systems also. That has changed many of our economic activities also. See, now without a phone, people cannot live. Such situation has entered. We are telling this mobile phone is actually spoiling the people's mindset, etc., etc. But in Bangladesh, one small thing has happened. There are so many islands actually, or island type of towns are there. Many of them are actually depending upon the market of vegetables. Vegetable brinjal, if it is in one particular area, in Bangalore, if it is 40 rupees, in Mangalore, it may be 60 rupees, in Hubli, it may be 70 rupees. The rates may be varying. But in that Bangla, what happened? One particular lady, she started interacting with the different vegetable merchants, and they used to fix common rate in all the places. So if some price is hiking at one particular end, the reason will be explained to others and automatically the rates will become common in all places. And this actually leads to Vajpayee's concept of establishing national highways. See, why national highways should be very straight, very broad, and why goods actually reaches to that place very fast. The reason is simple. If something is actually that agriculture produces some particular item in one particular place, the demand for that item will be somewhere else. It may be some 100 kilometers away or 400 kilometers away or some 800 kilometers away. And shifting that particular item from this place to other place, that actually brings more value to this particular item. See, if you consider tomato, it's more in Kolar. The demand may be in Bombay. Then sending tomato in boxes through courier system, months together if it takes. So the item actually spoils and it will be wasted. So locally grown up items were actually considered in the previous days. But nowadays it is not the system. There are many different types of methods to send them in quick sessions so that the items are actually reachable in different places. So this is actually the trends in new market system, and items are available. Even you see the hotel concept. When we look back to our kingly systems, Aravattige we used to tell. There will be some Adugu Lajjis or Aravattiges. They used to give the food because those people are poor who actually prepare that food, and it will be helpful for the travelers, and such houses will be away from the villages, mostly at the end of the village, and the travelers used to stay there and get the food and make movements. But nowadays what happens, we are finding the hotel systems, hotel chains are there. If you consider Pakashala, so in Karnataka, in different towns, the same hotel, same system will be there. Kamat's Cafe. So it's actually establishing in all places. So the economic system, it actually slowly creates entrepreneurship, then industries. Such concept is actually in every town, small economic zones. Through that, supporting is there. Banking system has changed now. Earlier, only Sethjis used to give money, that too for the exchange of gold. But nowadays, this common banking system is coming. The currency system is established. Nowadays, ATM cards have come, and bitcoins are actually got introduced. So, if you look at all these things, our economic system is totally changed. So, there are many different types of changes. I think at what time I should give a break? If anybody tells me.
Sir, this is the time break at 11:15, sir. The first session
11:15,
is
sir.
over.
11:15.
Okay,
Yes.
one more minute is there. Just I will conclude my first particular talk and then I will elaborate in the second talk. Relooking into history reveals overlooked voices and experiences. Socioeconomic changes impacted different groups unequally. Understanding these dynamics helps address modern challenges of inequality and development. So, for this purpose, we may have to look into the history. One thing is true, there is change in caste system, but still caste remains. Intercaste marriage system is established, still caste system continued. But the mindset is changed. Earlier, by counting the caste, one could decide is their social ability. They could have fixed their activities, but nowadays it is not possible. So, by looking at their education, by looking at their social status, by looking at their employment, by looking at their economic position, we may have to analyze the person's ability. So, such is one particular change. Another one is education. That's another particular item. The third one is the political changes. These changes are happened in different ways. I am giving a gap here. If anybody wants to raise one or two questions, we can have